Good day everyone, I will be showing my Code Talker deck profile. This is a 45 card deck list. Let's start off with the trios. We have our main searches, which are 3 Lady Debugs and 3 Microcoders. So the way I play this is 3 Lady Debugs to search any of our level 3 or lower Cybers monsters, including Micro, and Micro to search our signage, spells, and traps. Both of these cards are pretty much mandatory to win with this deck. If you try to play this deck without these guys, good fucking luck. Tuos, which are Link Slayer, Nightmare Corruptor Ibli, Parallel Exceed, and Flame Buffalo. So, Ibli is here to, as we all know, restrict my opponent to special summoning, and this is actually very busted in Code Talkers because you could search it out of a spell card we'll be covering in the future, Link Slayer. We generally use him as either discard fodder or when we start our combos. Parallel Exceed, I generally never need to explain it, as Link Summon, he comes out from your hand, he gets the other copy out onto the field. So he shrinks the deck and he's a good, just easy special summon. The only reason I play 2 instead of 3 is I generally don't want to risk opening multiple copies of Parallel Exceed because he can cause a brick if that happens. Then we got the 2 Flame Buffalo. Now he's here for his discard to draw 2, and he's also searchable of Lady Debug and spell card we'll cover in the future. He is very good at helping us get to our hand traps as well as just get to any combo extenders. Next we have the one-offs, which are Dodgekeeper, Sea Archiver, Cybers Converter, Lincoln Flyer, Scriptron, Code Exporter, Code Generator, Format Skipper, and Getsuriadic Nester. So let's start with, well, the 2 code monsters, Code Generator and Code Exporter. These 2 have opposite effects, but both are beneficial to the deck. Generator sends a card from deck to grave. We normally just send Dodgekeeper, or if we can't, we send Sea Archiver. And with that, we've got Dodgekeeper summon, and if we combo Sea Archiver with Parallel, we generally do get him on the field. Scripton is here because he's just another water monster to search if we already have Sea Archiver in hand. Getsuri is protection and easy special summon. Format is to search our level 5 or higher, so you could search Getsuri or Scripton, or even Parallel. Lincoln Flyer and Cybers Converter are just good level 2 Cybers monsters we can use. I went with level 2s over backup secretaries, a level 3 or a level 1, because with Lincoln Flyer, he is very easy to extend combos, even though he literally just has a special summon. And Converters is pretty much the same as backup secretary, but all your monsters have to be Cybers, and he goes into a lot more links. And then we're going for Exporter. He grabs one of your level 4 lower Cybers monsters from the grave and adds it to your hand, or if he's used on field, special summons it but negates its effect. This card is generally good for setting up future plays, and he's also a good combo extender in that regard. Next of our three elves in spells, we have Signet Mining and Signet Coded. Both of these are search code. Signet Mining searches any level 4 or lower Cybers so long as we discard a card, which when we do, we're generally plussing anyway. This I've described as a get out of brick free card because you could discard a brick card and just get a good card you need. And Signet Coded, what this does is, if you summon a code token from the extra deck, you can search a Cybers monster with the same attribute as the code token summon. So this card is good for extra linking, and along with that, we generally search every attribute in the deck. Generally, there are some we don't use, I believe. No, we use every attribute. And the reason this is so good is, yeah, it's one per attribute, but it's 6 searches, plus with how much card advantage we play in the deck already, we can easily grind the deck down so that to stop our opponent, we'll only be getting hand traps of like the Flame Buffaloes or future extra deck card I'll show. So yeah. Our other spells that we run, one of are Called by the Grave, Optimization, and Sanctuary. Now, I know I've seen people say stop running Called by the Grave, and don't do that. Easy spell card to get, especially considering you could. Well, what I've done before is I've set this against chip elements and negated one of the monsters that we're going to use the fusion summon effect. Optimization is just used for its additional normal summon. Its battle phase effect would not matter because you probably already win without this, even if you can't stop anything being activated during your opponent's battle phase, because they probably won't do that. And then Sanctuary. So Sanctuary is basically here to stop people attacking Ibli into my link monsters that I'll show. And that's something I need to counter a lot, because I can't just rely on summon Ibli to their side of the field and hope to God they don't do anything. Then we have our one trap card, which is Signet Conflict. Microcoder searches this out. It's an Omni Negate so long as you control a code token monster. It banishes the card, and then your opponent cannot use another copy of that card to your end phase. Signet Conflict is how I would describe. It's an overpowered card played in a not so overpowered deck. And I've said this a lot, but I think if more of the code tokens were played in mainline decks, this card could be an easily broken card. Not just because it's searchable, but because you could put this in place of other Omni Negate trap cards that require more setup or generally need other weird specifications. This just needs you to at least control one code token monster, and that's easy. Along with that, it could also replace the Solemn cards, which I've seen a lot of play, because this banishes the cards, and when you banish cards, they are hard to recover, so this God tier card. Now we're moving on to our hand traps / staples. We've got the 3 Ash Blossoms to stop searching, 2 Ghost Balls to stop anything that moves graveyard to anywhere else, 3 Effect Veilers for those on-field monsters, and it's not once per turn, so you could use multiple of them in one turn, and 2 Imperms because it's It's slightly better than Veiler because we can actually use it during our turn. And it's a trap, so we could set it. It can be activated from the hand if we control nothing. So we're just going with these 8 hand traps. You can run more if you want to. I generally don't because I don't want to risk breaking off the hand traps. And now let's get into the extra deck. Starting with the Link ones, we've got Talkback Lancer, 2 copies of Bear Links, and Ling. Now Talkback Lancer, he's normally used to try and recover our board. He requires a level 2 level 2 Cybers monster to link into, and then you tribute 1 Cybers monster on your field to resurrect a Code Talker. This card is actually pretty good at being used as a recovery option. We generally don't use him for anything other than to recover our board. Bear Links here. Now the reason I run 2 is so that I at least can put battle protection on, well, destruction protection in general, on one of the other Bear Links. So summon, search, activate Sank, reincarnate into Bear Links. He's protected by all, well, damage. No, not damage, destruction. Ling, yeah, he's actually generally one of the best Link 1 Cybers monsters we can get. He requires a level 4 lower Cybers monster, so he's not generic at all. He can resurrect off the tributing the Adignista we run, but we don't use that effect because, well, the general thing is we only use him for his, what I call anti-imprum effect, where he just says no to imprum, no to even, just no to any trap card. Next are our Link 2s. We have the starters Code Talker, we have Code Talker Inverted, we have Splash Mage, and Update Jammer. Code Talker and Code Talker Inverted are generally, we've got combo starter, combo extender. That's the whole meat of them. He special summons a Cybers monster from hand, so yeah, he is what you start with when you start your Code Talker plays in the Link summoning. So if you link 2 to start off with, you go into him. Splash Mage and Update. Every Cybers deck, even if it's not Code Talker, so Salamangreats, Adignistas, and sometimes Marinces run both of these. Marinces preferably runs just Splash Mage, but I have seen versions that run Update Jammer as well. So yeah, Update Jammer is an OTK creator, so he allows you to OTK easily. Splash Mage resurrects any Cybers monster in defense position but negates effect. It's unlikely we resurrect a Cybers monster without a graveyard effect or without having an effect that involves being linked off. So yeah, Splash Mage can also be a combo extender. So yeah, generally the Link 2s are the best we're gonna get for Code Talkers in my opinion. Next for the Link 3 we have the Code Talkers themselves, Transcode, Heat, Soul, Shooting Code, and X-Code. Now, I have to say, Transcode you go into immediately after Code Talker, and then you resurrect the Code. Transcode resurrects any links to your lore. If our board is broken and we go into Talkback, we usually get him back so we can get more combo. Heat Soul. So with Heat Soul in here, we do use his draw effect. However, we generally go into him as the last Link monster we go for our turn 1 board. Because here's the thing. You use his effect once you've already searched a lot. Shooting Code. Well, we generally use Shooting Code just for the water search, but we have used him for his battle phase effect where he attacks into any number of monsters and draws up to that number. The reason we don't do that is we generally never gonna have the draw effect of them activate. And then we have Xcode. Now Xcode is interesting because with Xcode we use him to block a zone, and that's usually the zone transcode points to, but he's also the main way we search out wind monsters, and he brings destruction protection. He is generally good, and that's all I'm gonna say. He deserves all the play he gets, yeah. Next we have Firewall Dragon, Mekk-Knight, Crusader Avamax, and Access Code. These are what I would describe as our boss monsters, where I know some people just say this is interrupting. No, this is a boss monster. So Firewall, there was a good reason he was rotted. He was absolutely busted. He's still quite busted because he can be created with only 2 plus monsters, so any generic Link 2s can go into him. However, his effects are generally not gonna be that, because his special summon effect was what made him busted, and it's made once per turn and can only summon out Cybers monsters. His bounce effect was never used when he was around, so when he was co-linked, he could bounce up to, and this was once while he was on the field, so you could remove him from the field and resummon him, and you could get the bounce effect back. So when he's co-linked, he can bounce up to any number of the cards co-linked. And the max I've gotten is 3. You cannot get him to 4 because of how his arrows point. Max is 3. And he is generally an annoying card for most people, especially since he can be an absolute beast with even without the attack gain. Next we have Mekk-Knight Crusader Avamax. He forces the opponent to try and attack him, and if it's a special summon monster, he gains the attack of the said special summon monster. Now one thing I've done with this build is that I've actually done a thing where I've made it so he's on the field and Ibli's on there. The Ibli would be forced to attack him. Now, when I do that, he also has this X code pointing to him, so he has 3,500 attack. He cannot be targeted, and if he's destroyed or just removed from the field and sent to grave, he shuffles an opponent's card back into the deck. This forces them to either risk paying 3,500 life points just to play, which is a lot, mind you, or it is wait for something to potentially out him, and then more likely I win off that. Access code. Oh boy, so with update gem, this card's busted. This card's busted in this deck because of the diverse attribute link monsters we run. Access code alone is a valuable card, and it's a good going second card if you can get it. Access code is generally good at OTKing. He's good at getting games where you just outright demolish your opponent, and he's a very welcome OTK monster, and he's good for removing spell traps, monsters, just anything that can be removed with his pop effect, he will remove. And with access, he can gain up to at least 8,000 attack, because you could use potentially the rival at Ignista to get linked off and go into him. And I know nobody would do that, but generally I would stick with the 5-3 attack, because links, other than the link falls, which I generally rarely use to link him out, they will be the highest link ratings I use to get him out. And because your opponent can't respond to access code, you would often use him last in the chain. And he literally makes it so the chain is just yours. Your opponent cannot do anything about the chain if you chain his effect. And that's his on summon effect. His destruction effect is not once per turn, it's once per attribute. This makes him broken. I still see multiple decks play access code, like Solid, Strikers. I've seen an Ignis play a version with him, though they tend to not anymore. I've seen just any deck that runs 3 to 5 link monsters will play access code. Even Dragon Link plays him, and sometimes they don't even go into him, because generally access code is the finish him type card, where he gives the fatalities. Next is our side. Nothing special about the side. We start with our 3 Cosmic Cyclones. This is just pay 1,000 life points to banish back row. We're already gonna lose life points for playing Heat Souls, so I just generally didn't care. And plus, the side didn't have perfect synergy with Heat Soul. Then there's Dimensional Barrier, and if you know the meta, you know why this is in it. You know Tier's gonna fucking cry if you played this against them. I generally don't main deck because, well, this specifically because half the time I don't know what deck I'm going up. If I know I'm going up against a Tier player, I know I lose round 1 and try and get this. So I generally never try and assume what my opponent's playing. That's why I don't play that. Next we have the Rivalry. So this has good synergy with Ibli, where you could Rivalry Ibli lock them. So even if they get rid of the Ibli, the next card they summon has to be one that can't be used. And one thing I've noticed is if a Tier player gets a Shizu out first and then you flip the Rivalry, that's it, they're fucked. They can only use their Shizu cards. They cannot use the Tier cards. They are locked into Fairy at that point. So if they only use, and it's just same with the, if they only use a Tier card they can only go into, but the Tier cards are the main danger in the deck. The Shizu just help Tiers be busted and unfair. So that's why we, and we have Dark Ruler no more. So if we're going second in turn 2 or 3, this is going in the deck and generally good going second card. The one drawback is we can't deal damage to our opponent, but that doesn't mean we can't make battles against our opponent's monsters, which I know is an off thing to say, but it's true. It's also just generally been good since it came out. Next we play 2 additional copies of Conflict. So the way I played these 2 additional copies of Conflict in the side is, do I need more negates essentially? My thought process with playing this is, do I swap out the extra search in Silent Minings to put the conflicts in? That's the question I ask, because some decks just generally lose to me and then some need to be absolutely negated for me to even stand a chance of beating. That's why I play 2 more conflicts in the side. I've seen people generally be against me playing conflicts in the side, but who gives a shit? Then we have our 2 new additions, which are Evenly Matched and Shadow Imprisoning Map. Now, with Evenly Matched, it's difficult to get, it's expensive card. if you were around for my Christmas pulls, you know I pulled this during Christmas and this during Christmas. This generally can help, but the reason I don't main it is if I'm gonna main evenly, I want to main multiple copies. Let's say it that way. But if I side it, I'm much more happy with it being a side swap in. Same as with Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, where I'm fine siding one, but if I had multiple copies, I would actually main it. And you might say, oh, but you run Dark Monsters anyway. Yeah, but I don't exclusively win off Dark Monsters. If you look at the deck, I run diverse. I run all 6 of the main attributes. I don't run Divine because you can't run Divine in Code Talkers. But with Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, most of the tier elements just die to this card. And that's a shame for them, because this negates all Dark Monsters on field or in grave. So they only have their hand effects, which tiers don't have. It's the Shizu monsters. And if this is up on face up on the field, and you see a tier deck, what you would do, well, basically, if you see a Shizu monster, just flip this if you have it face up. And then if he mills any darks, he knows he can't use them, and he knows he can't go tier play, so he has to just try and beat you solely off the Shizu engine. And most of the other engines went with tier like Dark Worlds and Bestial suck at the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. I know people say I've seen people say Bestials can beat the tiers on their own, well, as an engine in any deck, but I don't see it that way, because the Bestials don't negate the effects. With Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, they just straight up negate, and Shadow Imprisoning Mirror is a godsend. I'm actually glad they reprinted this, because with it, tiers would be, without it, tiers would be just absolute mayhem. So going off most of the synergy we have, our main strategy is just to shorten our 45 card deck to about half, so we have at least a good chance to pull our hand traps and staples, which we do generally do, and open multiple search cards in our opening end. So at times I've actually opened Micro, Lady, Formud, Codec, and then a random card like that. And when you open like that, you can see that I'm not actually going to summon the Formud, because even if I do, it would be a waste of a body. I would activate the Codec, summon the Lady Debug, get any level 3 or lower, and then link, so I could get an extra search of Micro, which I would normally just go optimization if I open Conflict. Or I could go Silent Mining just to have another search card. It's generally up to you how you want to play it. But if you open a hand like this, you can go full combo easily. Another thing is with a lot of the just meta decks I've seen, they tend to try and just basically board wipe your field before you could even get your next turn. With this, I'm trying to prevent that as much as possible, and this isn't the best version of the Code Talker deck, but this is the version I could make with the cards I have. And one thing that stands above this is, even with my build, it's got the potential to top. It's not guaranteed, but it's got the potential. And yeah, I have topped with this deck before in a local. So you could try this deck at your own risk. My general thoughts are, don't actually, if you're about to play, don't actually go for the Code Talker deck at all. Mainly because a lot of other decks inadvertently made Code Talkers a very expensive deck to play. And that's why it's such a hard deck to build. So, that's been me. I've been Ginger Wanyami. And I'll see you later, my fellow duelists.